so much focus on wrongdoing in public office, and I don't want to go into the details. It is most refreshing to find somebody who has left public office who is earning praise for the work that he has done. Over the last 11 months, it's been very difficult to hear praises for people who were in public office. And perhaps he's the only one that I'm hearing praises, for the work that he did, especially in the areas of accountability and prudence in the management of public resources. Right. So I'm so proud that my brother here happens also to be my friend, and I wish him the best. In the public spaces, we need that. People who can be relied upon. In these public spaces, you need people who are not so overtly too politically partisan. Who place the interest of Ghana, above all else and so on. And I'm so happy that I got a friend like this. And I'm so happy that he stays a friend. I haven't seen him for a long time because apparently he's been traveling quite a lot, But I'm happy to meet him on this platform. And, look, Ghana is in trouble. Everybody knows that Ghana is in trouble. And we need to rally all the forces we can find in order to carry on a rescue mission. Ghana is in very, very deep trouble. You and I were at a media briefing yesterday, and it was so horrifying. Yesterday I almost felt paralyzed after listening to accounts of the state of the cocoa board. It's frightening, and it's not just the cocoa board. Many of our state institutions are in that kind of situation. And if we don't rally, don't rally around the flag and the interest of working people and so on, this country can very, very quickly become a banana republic. I'm so very deeply worried about the present and future of this country. And that is why you need to have some people who have membership of the National Democratic Congress or the New Patriotic Party or CPP or PNC and so on, who look beyond the narrow objective of capturing power for their entities, and can look at the national interest, whatever it is, however it's defined. Because I'm very worried. And I'm sure that perhaps you were also as worried as I was yesterday after listening to the briefing on the state of the cocoa board. It's frightening. And yesterday, something that clicked. When Randy was appointed as chief executive of the cocoa board, he told me, and I said, Randy, what are you going to do there? You are making a significant contribution as a media personnel and so on. Why are you going there? What is the motivation? And so on. Yesterday, I felt right.
Vindicated.
Yes, I felt right.
Yes.
Just poor boy. Poor boy. Why this burden? Of course, somebody must carry the burden. Somebody must work for Ghana and so on. But the mess is huge. It's so huge. Especially the part where, we are told that the total liabilities of cocoa board are much bigger than its total assets.
Yeah.
It's a bankrupt company, But you need people like Kukufu and others, to rally around in order to engage and to see if we can find solutions to these hydra-headed problems that confront us. So, my brother, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Listening to Randy yesterday, you're absolutely spot on. It was very depressing.
So depressing.
Very, very depressing. And the question I asked myself, why do we do this? Why are we doing this to our own our own country. What do we want? It's very difficult to sometimes understand why and how people do certain things. And again, as if you knew it, but whilst you and I and Kweku were seated, I was recalling what the first thing you said when you came on the show after Randy's appointment, and you said, look, you pity Randy. Those were the use you said, I pity Randy. But at the time, I didn't have that in-depth knowledge of how bad the situation was. Fortunately, you did. And so you knew exactly what you're saying. But after listening to him yesterday, I was like, wow. Somebody else would have resigned and said, look, deal with it. Whatever the state ought to do. But you see, he said something yesterday. He said, look, some very, very, very hard and tough decisions would have to be taken about the cocoa situation.
Moral, basic. You're dealing with cocoa, the cocoa sector. And over the last 3 years or so, we've lost 50% of production. 50% of production.
That's massive.
Why? One, as a result of the impact of galamsey. It's had a huge impact on the cocoa sector. But then we also have the swollen shoot disease, which also has made a huge impact on the cocoa sector. That alone is troubling. That alone is exceedingly troubling. There was a situation where, the LBCs, the Ghanaian LBCs, are folding up. So the license buying companies are becoming predominantly foreign. That's a huge problem that we have to grapple with. And then you have a situation where the resources available to the board, are not enough just to pay salaries. They are not enough just to pay. If you finish paying salaries, there's nothing left. You have a hole.
Yeah.
You understand? That's a terrible situation, And then there are loans that the board has to pay, and so on. It's terrible. It's really, really, really terrible, I wonder how Randy is able to sleep at night. How is he going to be able to sleep burdened with this problem? Yes. Today, one of the things which also struck me, and he himself has said it before, was how recklessly, the board carried out imports of cocoa sacks, for example. Just so reckless to the maximum,
But Uncle, quite clearly,
you have sacks which would last for 3 years.
I'll bring you it.
You have cocoa sacks which are going to last for 3 years, and then you import more, and then you don't clear them at the port.
And import more.
And then they are auctioned at the port, and people come from Nigeria and buy them and take them away and so on.
But quite clearly, Uncle, that's clearly a case of causing financial loss.
I have said repeatedly that my interest is not in just prosecution and sending people to jail and so on. That's not my interest. Okay. My major interest is what systems we introduce in order to stop the bleeding. Yeah. But look, over the years, we've been sending people to jail. We've actually been killing people, sentencing them to death and so on. Has it changed anything? It hasn't. I remember the 1970s, 79, and I remember some of the killings that were carried out. Somebody like Rear Admiral Joy and Medome. Why did we kill him? We tied him to the stakes and shot him. Because he had taken a loan then of 5,000 cedis without collateral. That was the reason why he was executed by firing squad.
Yeah.
In today's terms, you're talking about a loan he had taken whose worth is about 5 cedis. And it's not that he stole the money, he took it as a loan, he was paying.
Yeah.
But he took it without collateral, and therefore the assumption was that he may have used his influence as a political office holder, you was tied to the stakes and shot. What did that do to us? What did that do to us? Why did we kill Agyapong? Why did we kill Agyapong? And when Agyapong was leaving office, how much property had he acquired?
Yeah.
He was living in Shidim. Shidim, in a house which today, is a joke. You understand? And the allegation then, the rumor then was that he had too many girlfriends and was buying VW Golf cars for them. VW Golf! Today you see the cars that our political office holders are riding with their wives and so. You see the cars they are riding? Yeah. We shot Agyapong for buying VW Golf cars. It's incredible. And so the killings, the imprisonment and so on has not resolved the problem. I believe very strongly that all of these things flow from privilege. If you are not in a privileged position, you cannot tamper with public funds and so on. It's about privilege.
Yeah.
So we need to begin to look at how to limit privilege, to solve the problem. And I find that more healthy than banging people in jail and shooting them and so on.
Before I bring in the dog, you were so spot on when you said this malaise, cuts across the different spheres of our public, institutions. So, before attending the Cocoa Board media briefing, I was also at Exim Bank, which is now under Sylvester Mensah, the former NHI boss. And it's a similar story. His biggest headache is giving people money. People didn't use the money for the intended purposes. And those who have even used it for the intended purposes can't pay back. We're talking billions of cedis. And how to collect the money is his biggest headache.
There have been a few cases like that where people actually went to the banks with what they call bankable projects, whatever that means. And the bank gives them millions of cedis. In some cases, they even had foreign exchange. They had dollars and so on.
Okay.
And the money did not go into the project at all. There have been a few cases like that, not a few, quite some cases like that. And then they did not repay the loans. So the banks lost the money. The purpose for which the loans were given were not realized. In some of the cases, it was in the agricultural sector. So the food production did not take place. Resources for food production were used to buy luxury cars and so on. Just a huge mess, complete mess, complete mess. And
let me.
That is why sometimes, quite honestly, I worry, hearing the politicians and what they talk about, and the fact that some of them still have the courage to engage in public discussions, and to pontificate on national issues. You don't leave this mess and not feel a sense of guilt and so on. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Doc,
yeah,
you have some thoughts to share on this?
Yes, of course. Since I'm here, and these are topical issues of national interest, so definitely I've got to.
You have managed a public office before. I don't know if you feel when you hear some of these stories.
Well, I believe we have something we call systemic failure in our governance system.
Okay.
Altogether. What we are hearing, anyway, I wasn't privy to the meeting you guys went, but I'm taking something out of that. I don't know if 2017, when New Patriotic Party took office under another Akufo Addo, some of these things were brought out to the fore and for the public to know. Regime change after regime change, you are bound to face some of these things. Remember why some people were being prosecuted at Cocoa Board. the former chief executive himself and not. So the legacy problems, the systemic challenges that have been existing within our public sector or public institutions are age-old. And people come into office and they can't do much about that, or they can't boldly call for reforms to restore order, or whatever you have. So it is passed on from generation to generation, from regime to regime. So nobody can ever tell me that if there are issues or problems at Cocoa Board, they started some 8 years back. No. But the escalation and also not dealing with those issues would have been the matter to discuss or to take it off. That is why you are in government. You are not in electioneering period. You are not on campaign trails. The lamentations are becoming too many. You can do it. The president thinks you can do it. That's why you've been put there. And there are problems to be solved. Kwesi is afraid, for now and for the future. Just as myself, everybody else. That is why we go to the polls and elect leaders to run today and then to run the future of our country. The complaints, we may go back. J. Akufo took over office 2000, and the cocoa industry was in complete shambles. His government took the initiative of revamping the cocoa industry, and we all saw what was put in place. And then we all saw the output that came out of that. We had to cut down most of the cocoa trees and replant them. We had to do a whole lot of policies were put in place, all gearing towards revamping the industry. So there had never been any time in the history of this country where everything has been so clean and rousy. You come in, you inherit challenges, so as you inherit assets and privileges. As we speak today, can the chief executive of Cocoa Board look into the eyes of Ghanaians and tell us that there are serious challenges at Cocoa Board? So we are not taking salaries. We are not traveling. We are forfeited our privileges and what is due us, all in the name of trying to save the company? The answer is no. They are continuing. And check how many people have been employed there. A company that is so much in distress. Check how many people have been employed there, because he's under obligation to employ.
Yesterday he said, yesterday.
Yes, I wasn't there, so tell me what.
Yesterday he said, yes, there's pressure to employ because people are looking for jobs.
Yes.
But he's refused. He says he won't employ anybody.
Yes, refused.
Yes, says he won't.
In fact, I think it's important to make the facts available to
because of the precarious nature of the financial situation of the company.
Because it appears that he's not seized with the facts.
The facts, yes.
Yes.
So the Cocoa Board has been in existence for 80 years.
Yes.
This is the first time in an 80-year history that its liabilities exceed its assets. The first time, never happened in 80 years. I have the floor. You came in to help. So I thought you had finished.
No, I haven't.
No, but I will say, no matter how long you talk, I will still get the opportunity to get the facts out.
Yes. And I'll be happy. And I will be happy to have the facts as it were. Because I've told you I wasn't part of the meeting.
Right.
But the point is,
speaking about employment, I hope.
Yes, the employment.
Employment.
So
in the last 11 months, there have been no new employment.
At Cocoa Board.
Yes.
Yeah, within 8 years, in spite of the precarious nature of the finances of the company and so on, more than 2,000 people were employed.
Yes.
Okay, so granted.
Why?
So granted. I'm coming. With 80 years, this is the first time you've had liability outstripping assets. That's the fact, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It has been a build-up. It has been a build-up over the 80 years. You see, people have been advocating for a long time that we even scrap the cocoa board. Are you aware of that? Do you know why? Because we failed with timber board. We used to have timber marketing board. Why was it scrapped? And when was it scrapped? In this country. So all these state institutions gradually, we are building up that kind of decay. And I agree that at any set point in time, that is why I said in 27, maybe what we did not do well was to come publicly to tell Ghanaians exactly what was there that we found, the decay. Maybe we were so economical with exposing most of the rot when we came into office. And let me, you know the case of PBC?
Produce Buying Company.
Yeah. Was in dire straits before 2017. 2016, 2015, there was serious problems. Even when I was in Parliament those times, Cocoa Board was finding it very difficult to raise this syndicated loan to do the purchasing. What there's work to be done. You said you can do it. You told Ghanaians that this and that and that, and you've been given the mandate. Please get to work. If the kitchen is too hot, just tell the president, please, I cannot continue. And that would be the most ideal thing to do. But the lamentations are 1 2 minutes.
That's a fair statement to make.
Well, it may seem, but to me, that is the point. Because you see, you are put there not because the place is so rousy for you to go and enjoy the larges. You are put there because there are perceived and real challenges there. So you bring your expertise on board. Bring whatever you have, your managerial skills, to come and solve most of the problems. We will be happy as the people of Ghana. When you come and tell us, I went there, I saw -2, 3 and 4. Now I've worked so hard, down, instead of -2, we are getting to 0, moving towards +1. Then we'll be clapping for you. Then we know that you are working.
But that's exactly what is happening now.
No.
There are many things which are moving from completely negative indicators.
Kwesi,
can I give you the facts?
Kwesi, no, I don't need the facts now.
You don't need the facts?
I'm okay with what is available now that we're dealing with. So you see, but let me quickly traverse a little bit.
Okay.
And let's see, because Kwesi said he's afraid of the future. And I'm equally afraid of the future, maybe more than him. If you have an economy that is being run with the currency over-strengthened, not based on export earnings or based on any particular economic policy that is stimulating the growth and the strength of your currency, then you have a problem. Today, we are being told that the cedi has stabilized against the dollar, which is a good thing to me, but at what cost? The president and the Bank of Ghana is bold enough to tell we Ghanaians that $10 billion of our money have been pumped in what they call intervention to stabilize the cedi. They took the cedi 14 cedis plus something in January. 14.7 in January. Today, how much is it?
It's 11.45.
11.45. So in between 14 and 11, you are talking about 3 cedis. And it has cost the taxpayer and the people of Ghana 10 billion to reach this point. And within a state of 10 months. So the ensuing year ahead of us, 2026, how much is the government going to pump in to maintain this kind of thing? So assuming 10 billion is the benchmark, next year another 10 billion is going to be pumped in. This is a serious issue.
How is it a serious issue?
Okay, let me explain. How is this a serious issue? How is this a problem? Let me explain. Because Moro, if you have $10 billion, if you have $10 billion, what would you use it for? Given your priorities,
what would you have used?
Okay, if I have $10 billion in government, yes. I will pay road contractors, I will pay teachers, I will pay nurses, I will employ more because I will open up, and then most importantly, stimulate local businesses, industrialization, encourage people to go into value addition, create more jobs, export more, and earn more foreign currencies back home. I will use this $10 billion within this.
In the 8 years that you were in power, why didn't you do what you are describing?
Okay, let me.
You were in power for 8 years.
Let me. You asked me a question. Let me answer. I will answer, but you asked me a question. You deserve to be answered.
Hold on.
Because that answer will help us.
You would answer, but hold on.
Okay.
Don't talk as if you just came from outer space. You just left government after 8 years.
Yes.
You understand?
Okay.
Now, besides, today, you go out there and tell the people of Ghana that it's a bad thing to stabilize the city. And listen to what they will tell you.
No.
You came into power. Your vice president, who is now seeking to be president, came into power. One of his priorities was to stabilize the city.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
One of his priorities.
Yes.
Why did he make the stabilization of the city?
Okay, let me answer. Because you kept on asking questions, so the questions demand answers.
No, they were rhetorical questions.
Rhetorical.
They were not meant
no,
to
but even if they demand answers,
you would have to wait for you to land.
Let me finish and then
give the answers.
You can answer them.
Yes.
Yes, that one, on that score I agree with you.
Yes. Let me finish and then you can answer them. So you go and tell those who are doing import, those who are in the import trade, that it's a very bad idea that the city has been stabilized.
Yes.
You understand? Go and tell those who depend on remittances that it's a very bad idea that the city has been stabilized and so on. What is this? Not just that. Massa, you're talking specifically about the cocoa board. A number of measures has been put in place in order to reverse the current situation. And one of those measures which has been put in place is the suspension of cocoa roads. I think it's a brilliant idea. It's something which would help us, to take hold of the resources available to cocoa board and to redirect them, for whatever. That has been done. There has been a freeze on employment over the last 11 months, So the payroll is being managed much better than it was managed before. Indeed, within the last 11 months, the importation of jute sacks, which became just a waste, has also stopped. And so there are all kinds of positive measures, which have been put in place as far as cocoa board is concerned. Now, you're talking about the management of the national economy. Look, I'm one to admit that there have been no fundamental structural changes in the state of the economy. But when it comes to managing the microeconomics and so on, why? Who is going to deny that now the inflation is in the single digit? Apart from the stability of the national currency, inflation is in the single digit. You understand? The national debt has fallen, and so on. These are all clear indications. These are not things that we have to argue about,
Okay. Good talk.
Fine, beautiful. I'm happy it's been situated well. That the intervention by Bank of Ghana, one, importation, and two, remittances, as he just said. This is serious. Fundamental economics will tell you that your import receipts, when they are so high, as against your export, you are in dire straits. You rather have to stimulate export, and then as much as practicable, cut down import. So we are putting in all these 10 billion just to satisfy importers. And let me give you one thing that you may know. Let me share with you. Immediately this government came into office, they organized a meeting between Gutta, the 24-hour Economy Secretariat, headed by the Venerable
Guzitano.
Yeah. They had a meeting with Guta, and he himself was there. Lawyer Oye Lita was there. Oye.
Which one is that? Which of the Oyes? Is it
Okay.
Even Nano Oye?
Nano Oye.
Bampo.
Okay. Yes, because I didn't want to use the message.
Yes.
Senior counsel. She was there.
Okay.
And you know what the government was telling Guta? Government was virtually begging Guta to step down their importation and rather go into industrialization, production, so that it can be the anchor of the 24-hour economy, because the 24-hour economy must necessarily hinge on value addition, where production is the focus. That was what the government engaged Guta. They said, no, we are import-oriented. And the promise you people gave us is that when you come into office, you make sure the dollar CD rate is down and stabilized. You make sure import taxes at the port are low for us to blossom. That ended the meeting. So the government had no option than to draw from its nose to ensure that that promise is done. Now, inflation is low. Yes, of course. Why not? Because money supply in the system is being controlled rigidly by Bank of Ghana. Now, people purchasing power is so dwindled, and they are not buying. Contractors are not being paid. The ordinary poor teacher who has worked for 11 months had to be paid only 1 month's salary. The nurse who has been recruited into the system and worked for almost 12 months now has been paid only 1 month's salary. And so, no award of contracts, nothing is going on, except that we are pumping our 10 billion. We did not, as a government, do that. You know, there was that form of intervention, I must agree. We did not go on this blast that much because the financial space was so rigid at that time. That is one. Two, we knew it wasn't sustainable. You cannot sustain it. So rather, we were trying to get this one district, one factory in place so that people can go into manufacturing and then create the needed value chain employment programming. That basically agri-business was to be promoted. This program had challenges, which I agree. It couldn't reach the crescendo or where we wanted to. So I would have loved that a new government coming in would have studied the situation and then right the wrongs within this remit. So instead of pumping dollars to shore up the city, manufacturers and people who are ready to go into value addition, particularly in the agribusiness, where we have greater advantage as a country, would have been given that kind of. So Dr. Bawumia, that time, said to resolve that problem, all that will be needed, and the next NPP government will make sure that at least every year 30 billion cedis of to be public expenditure will be saved. That 30 billion will go to the private sector to build them up into production so we can do export and earn more. That was the pragmatic issue. Now, again, this 10 billion, do you know where it's coming from? It is coming from the gold production.
Yes.
And we are being told that almost 60% of the total production of gold is coming from the small-scale sector. And the dichotomy between small-scale mining and illegal mining is almost melted. So we are getting this money out of likely illegal mining sector.
But Doc, this matter has come up time and again, and the counter argument has always been that, look, let's even assume. I mean, we don't have any concrete data to back
but I have.
Argument.
It's my area.
No, I'm
I've
saying
done
that.
the research. My PhD research is on that.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm saying that in the absence of showing me
Yes.
that data, that's the empirical evidence that you say you
Yeah.
have. The president himself,
Yes.
the lands minister,
Yes.
the minister is in charge of communications, they've all argued that look, even if we were to assume that the source of the gold that Gold Board is buying, assuming
Yeah.
is even illegal,
Yeah.
aren't we better off today than in the past when we didn't even know who were buying that illegal gold? Do you understand what I'm saying? So that illegal, so-called gold that we're buying, part of it we're using that to intermediate, not even intervene as you keep saying, to intermediate. And the communications minister again has had cause to explain that this whole thing about intermediation thing has not been properly understood because the Bank of Ghana gives cash, to the commercial banks, who then will give it to persons who need it for importation, to import their goods or their items. It's not for free. Okay. Now, the availability of the forex is what has dealt with the volatility as far as the forex exchange and things are concerned. Now, central bank has enough forex to give it to these commercial banks who then give it to ordinary people who want to import products from outside. And so there's no mad rush for forex, but the forex is there because economics 101. Once there's high demand for something and you cannot find it, the prices goes up.
Yes,
if it's available, the prices are moderate. So it isn't as if the government is taking 10 billion and putting it out and getting nothing back.
What is the government getting? What is the government
But the
getting
pressure
back?
oftentimes is created.
What is the government getting
We are
back?
putting the money out and we're not getting
I'm coming.
Explain this time again.
It is now that you explain. But I have the floor.
No,
You had the floor from morning to now, from dawn to now.
Kwesi, indulge me.
You always have the floor. Who gave you the floor? But we have to.
You see.
So I'm just saying that. Back to the issue you raised.
Yes. Let us deal with the issue.
Back to the issue you raised.
Yes.
Look, let's even assume, and I'm saying the absence of any hardcore empirical evidence.
I've heard you, but let me come.
Aren't we better off?
Better off?
No, I'm saying, aren't we better off?
Better off?
Making money.
Better off?
Comes to the state.
You see, when you go on that tangent, when you go on that tangent,
yes,
we must then establish that as a country, we are institutionalizing illegal mining.
No,
because we are better off with the proceeds. I mean that tell your argument.
No.
Oh God of mercy. That's tell your argument.
That would be an unfair conclusion.
Oh no. I'm basing on your argument.
Yes,
we are better off.
Okay.
We are better off because otherwise these monies would have gone into.
Yeah, but some persons we don't even know who they are.
But now it is coming to the state.
Yes.
So it's better.
Yes.
If those monies were going to the private people, would this still not be illegal?
Well, I don't know about it being it's illegal good. So yes,
it's illegal. So illegally it will be going to the private people. So now we want to say that illegally it should come to government.
Yes.
For us to be better off. Okay, now.
Establish.
So if you get this money at the very expense of the health of the people, very expense of our environment, the ecology, our water bodies, these are serious infractions that the monies that you get cannot reverse the trend.
But illegal mining started way before even the setting up of Gold Board.
Yes, of course. I agree. Way before.
But at the time, we're getting nothing apart from our water bodies being destroyed.
Yes. So now we are getting.
Yes.
Because we're institutionalizing the illegality.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh God of mercy.
Not necessarily.
And so,
in fact, Gold Board itself has said time and again.
And so,
once it has evidence that the gold it bought came from an illegal source, they reject it. Said it time and again.
So how many gold they've rejected?
Well, I don't know about rejection.
So now, do you have illegal gold mining in the system? Do you agree?
No, there is illegal gold mining.
Where are the golds?
We don't know.
You don't know. We don't know. So then, still, it's being smuggled. So then, still, the monies are going to the private sector. Is it the case? Please, we must be honest with ourselves.
Okay.
We must be fair in this.
Let me bring up
and the monies you are getting from this gold, the best way you think you can utilize it is not to pay the contractors, not to pay nurses, not to pay and then show up this high electricity cost, the water cost. It is not for you. It's not a priority for you to build more hospitals or to continue with projects that have been started, but rather push it towards importation. And I'm saying that the more you push importation, the more you encourage importation, you are fundamentally destroying your economy. Why wouldn't the same amount of money, whether credit or whatever, given to the manufacturers or private sector to run with? Please.
Okay.
So, Kwesi, yes, I agree with you. The future is bleak because I cannot see the sustainability in this.
Okay.
How do you sustain pumping $10 billion of your reserve every day and then every year?
Okay.
And mind you, gold is a non-renewable natural resource, and it can get extinct. It can get finished. So at the end of the day, when there's no more gold or more gold even to mine, it means you'll be mining and mining and mining, and the funds will be going elsewhere. There can never be a build-up of reserve.
Okay.
And the danger, because the danger in this is that the gold miners, whether legal or illegal, they are now going to fight over space, because the available mineable space that they are all getting depleted.
Okay.
So there's going to be gangsters among themselves fighting over lands to be mined.
Okay.
And that is where the national security threat comes in strongly.
All right. Let me bring your friend.
Right.
Okay, see.
Well, I just hope that Honorable Dr. Kokofu will spend a little time listening to himself, because he doesn't need any other intervention. Here we are. You came into government at a time when the cedi was exchanging for 3.4 to a dollar. Okay, that's when you came into government. And according to you, the way of strengthening the cedi is to introduce one district, one factory. Okay. For 8 years, you implemented this program of one district, one factory. 8 years. Huh? At the end of the 8th year, the cedi was exchanging at between 16 and 17 to a dollar.
Bank of Ghana.
Can I finish? Can I finish, please?
Was it Bank of Ghana?
Can I finish? And your recommendation now is that the incoming administration should go back and implement a program called One District, One Factory, which actually did not stop the problem, it worsened the problem. What do you take the incoming administration for? The new government, what do you take them for? In any case, when you're talking about this One District, One Factory thing and so on, show me those factories that were created, in fulfillment of that promise and so on. And I always cite one. I mean, we are being watched in Tamale right now, as we sit here, we are being watched in Tamale.
Yes.
Are you including the Motokin assembly plant, which was labeled as One District, One Factory? In Tamale, Motokin assembly plant, which existed 20 years before the government came into power.
Yeah, maybe,
was labeled
maybe it was revamped. Some injection was.
The people of Tamale know what I'm talking about.
Yes, because he was doing 10, and when he enrolled on the program, he started doing
20. Master, I think we should get serious. I think we should get serious. Moro has explained this cocoa thing, this gold problem.
Yes.
Clearly, very well. Look, I think that the way to go into the future is for us to own all of our resources. That includes gold, diamond, bauxite,
timber,
oil, and so on. To own those resources and to exploit those resources for the benefit of the people of Ghana. Ultimately, that's what we ought to do. But you see, this thing you're talking about, illegal mining, and the fact that some of the gold which is being bought is coming from illegal mining and so on. Master, please listen to yourself. Let's say that a certain quantity of gold is produced illegally. That quantity of gold which was produced illegally was finding its way outside the Ghanaian economy, was not benefiting the Ghanaian economy in any way. The environmental destruction was taking place, the waters were being polluted and so on. But in addition to that, we were losing the gold which was being mined.
Yeah.
Let us assume that what you're saying is true. So now, the illegal mining is still going on, the waters are being polluted, and I'm not going to contest that. But the gold which is mined is not leaving the country to balloon, the bank accounts.
But he describes this as institutionalizing illegal mining.
How is it being institutionalized?
So those
how is it being institutionalized?
Because we're buying.
So at least we are one step ahead of you.
Okay. No.
Can I finish?
You are buying from the thief a stolen item. This is practical. You are buying from the thief.
Is it a moral question?
Well,
are you talking about the morality of it?
Well, either way you take it, because illegality remains illegality. If I should acquire this, this is Kwesi, and I take it from him without his consent.
Not talk at all.
Yes, but I'm helping.
I don't need your help, please. I don't need your help.
Because we'll be helping each other.
No, today I don't need your help. Keep your help. The other thing which you speak about, which I find most interesting, is this bit about import substitution and export and so on. Well, perhaps you can't blame Dr. Kukufu too much. He's been traveling quite a lot. And he himself said that when he travels, he doesn't listen to the news. So a few things may have.
No, I did not say so.
Oh, he said so.
Is it was a pack? Is it
that pack?
Is it a
that
pack?
That EPA pack? That one. You see how the experienced man will do.
No, Master, no problem. So the traveling may have become a problem for him.
Okay.
Because we do know that there's a clear program for import substitution.
Yeah.
Clear program, and it's yielding results. As we speak, poultry farmers are complaining that they produce so much eggs that they can't even get buyers, even at Christmas. That's a concrete program. The National Service Secretariat, the poultry program that they've started, I'm sure you are fully aware of that. They're selling full dressed chickens now for 120 cedis. When they're selling on the market for 180 cedis and so on. All these are concrete things which are happening right now. They're happening. Look, I saw.
So no importation of chicken?
There's a program, it will not happen in one day, but there's a program to change that, and it is changing, and we can see it.
No. We go to the port, and we can see the import of these products. Poultry farmers are crying today.
Hold on. Can I finish?
Yes.
I'm sure, Massa. This one, I'm sure you saw it even when you traveled.
Which one?
The young man, the young man who made a video and is so angry with the Mahama administration for causing a reduction in the price of rice.
I've seen a video.
But do you believe it?
That's a fact.
I mean, what kind of fact? No.
You're denying that one.
No. But people can put nowadays. People can put video and do all manner of things.
No, I'm not talking about the video. You yourself, you eat rice, don't you eat rice?
Very much so. Ghana
Has
rice.
the price gone down or it hasn't gone
Ghana
down?
rice. What I'm buying is the same price. Yes, I don't patronize.
What shop are you buying from? Maybe you're buying from a special shop.
No, I have a supplier. The guy.
Then your supplier is cheating you.
The guy. Oh, why? The guy.
Because it's gone down.
It hasn't.
Masa, Moro.
No.
Why? The rice you buy hasn't gone
No,
down?
of course. The prices have come down.
They've come down. You are the only person who is still buying expensive rice.
No, expensive as in what?
Whoever supplies you rice is a cheat. Stop buying rice from the person. Because the rice I buy is come down.
What kind of rice do you buy? You buy Ghana rice?
Masa.
Maybe you are buying the imported rice. I patronize the baby
So you
Ghana
agree
rice.
that the cost of imported rice has come down?
Because they are getting cheaper dollar and they are killing the local industry. Because if you are not getting it, those who are producing rice locally, they can't compete with them.
Look.
Because they have cheap dollar being pumped into the system.
Look.
So he gets the dollar cheap, goes out there, bring in this rice, and Moro, who has taken money from Exim to produce rice, is unable to compete with them on the market.
Okay.
That is what we're talking about.
Look, you have a problem.
I have, because I'm afraid of the today and of future, just as you are afraid of.
Can I explain?
The nation, the nation is...
Can I explain the problem? You see, you work so hard. You've earned about 6 master's degrees. You have a PhD and so on. You're a big man in society.
No, the impact of it.
I'm coming here.
It's what is necessary.
So it
But
may,
you just been commended
hold on.
by PAC. That's impact.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it may very well be that the people you buy from, they look at all these your credentials in pricing the things they sell to you.
You see, that's the problem because he says you have.
So
That's your problem. They are selling rice to you as a PhD holder, as a person with 6 master's degrees, as a very prominent person in society and so on. And they think that you have the resources to pay for expensive rice. That's why you are suffering like that. Because everybody
So in order to get a cheaper rice, I have got to strip myself of all those
How
titles.
how can you justify
A shop sells rice, say for
your supplier is a very bad person.
It's not.
No, what was he? How was he? You're saying a shop sells rice for 50 cedis.
Yeah.
But anytime I go,
But when they see him,
the
man has a PhD. He has 7 master's degrees. He was boss of a
Then the professors. Then Kwesi, the professors.
This man, he can't buy rice at 50 cedis. He has
So
to buy
Kwesi,
rice
then the
at 100
professors.
So you are the only one who's buying rice at 100 cedis, but everybody is buying it at 50 cedis.
You are also not getting me. Have you looked at the local industry? Have you looked at the local industry?
So all the
local
measures
industry
have been announced and have been implemented. You are not aware of them. You are not aware at all.
At all.
Hey.
At all, because you see, Cocoa, Moro, I like that bit. When the CEO engaged, the media, the senior, the yesterday meeting, but was he able to tell you that the cocoa farmer is not happy? And for that, most of them are even giving their cocoa farms to these galamseyers. They are selling them. Do you know why? Because cocoa used to be sold at 475 cedis when Akufo Addo was in government. Then his government increased to 3,100. Then NDC in opposition said the government was so insensitive to the plight of the average cocoa farmer, and that the cocoa can fetch them not at least 6,000. So when they have the opportunity to come into office, they're going to do that.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.